take off, take flight with you. Yeah, we never fly, but we're flying.
Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Take Flight Podcast. This is episode number 250, and this is part of our Take Flight Takeaway episode. This week's episode will be hosted by myself, OLU OKUNOLA. In this week's episode, I want to talk through 8 steps to start a business that generates over 1 million of revenue and how you can replicate this process in any business idea that you have. But before we get started, quick disclaimer. This podcast is for information purposes only. Matters discussed are not intended to provide and should not be relied on as investment, accounting, legal, tax advice, or recommendations. The views, opinions presented are those of the host of Take Flight Podcast, and these may change. We advise that you seek and or obtain independent professional advice in relation to your personal circumstances. Let's get started. Why should you listen to this episode, and why am I the right person to talk about this topic? Beginning of the year, I received a call from my accountant. Ring, ring. My accountant let me know that we had achieved a major milestone and our business had surpassed 1 million of revenue. You can imagine I was ecstatic, right? Not that many people open or start their own business, let alone achieve over 1 million worth of revenue. So if you're looking to start a business, but you don't know where to start, what steps to follow, then listening to this episode where we go through the journey and these 8 steps might help. If you stick to the end of the episode, I'm going to share what business I have and how long it took us to achieve 1 million of revenue. So step 1, just begin and start. You're never going to be ready when it comes to starting a business. There's so many people that are afraid to fail or come up with 101 excuses why this is not the right time to start a business and never actually start the business. I have started multiple businesses have failed, and I just continue moving on, look at a new idea, look at a new business model, and continuously start, because you never really know which business is going to survive, be successful, that you're going to be able to build to be able to generate over 1 million. So my first step and advice for you is start today. Be intentional and just go out and start the process of doing versus talking about, I have this great idea, I'm contemplating doing this. Just go and do it. Second step is find a business partner. You're more likely to succeed when it comes to business if you have a business partner. I was lucky enough to have a really close friend of mine, one of my best friends, as a business partner. Now, what you really need to do is sit down, understand your skill sets, right? Who has one skill set versus another? Is someone going to bring funds into the business? Is someone going to bring time? Is someone going to bring expertise? Whatever the skill set that person is going to bring into the business, and partner with someone. It's a lot easier to build a business when you have a partner. I personally love having a business partner because it also gives you accountability. We were having weekly catch-ups where we had a list of tasks, who were the owners, whose responsibility was to close it out before the next week. Having that drives accountability and someone to hold you to any particular task, which then drives progression and progress when starting a business. It's so easy if you start a business by yourself, where you look at 1 week, you don't do anything. The next week goes by, you don't really do anything. There's no one really to hold you accountable. But having a business, a partner, allows you to, one, split the skill sets. If you have or you need funding, etc., get that. And then most importantly, have the accountability. The third step is find a business that you can replicate. You don't have to come up with this new idea. There's so many businesses out there that you can replicate. Now, before I decide or before I select a business that I'm going to replicate, I typically check on Company House. Now, if you're based in the UK, Company's House is a Gov website where it has a lot of financial information of private companies. I look for a competitor in the same space. I go online, I search that company on Company House. I look at the financials and see, is it actually profitable, right? There's so many people that start up businesses that are not profitable and they're not making any money. So I'll pick a few competitors, Google it, find their company registration number, check it in Companies House, and see how much revenue are they making, how much cash do they have in the business, how much cash do they have in year one. All these information is really good for understanding, is this the right business to go to? Is it profitable? Is it a scalable business? And what sort of money or investment do you need to actually start this business? So, perfect example is if you decide to do a property management company, you can find other companies on that do this. Go on Company House, find out, are they making profit? Is it a profitable business? How much revenue do they have in this business? And also find a space where there's a large amount of customers. So in the example that I just gave, there's millions of landlords out there, right? So you're able to solve a problem for millions of landlords. Having another person in that space, there's no shortage, right? You can go into that space. You just need to find out what is your unique selling point, what is going to separate you from the other competitors. You just got to figure out what differentiates you, where you can win customers from them or get new customers in that particular space. The fourth step is finding initial capital. Now, I don't believe in this no zero money to start a business. I don't believe that BS, right? To start a business, you're going to need either money to set up a website, if it's to do your indemnity, sort of your liabilities and all of that stuff, if it's to do a company logo, if it's for a property element of that, maybe if you're doing rent to rent, to pay the landlord the first month rent whilst you're waiting to fill up your property, you're going to need capital to start. So the two options is really your savings. So save out from your salary if it's putting aside £100, £200, £500 a month, or going back to step number two, find a business partner that can bring capital or funds into the business. So again, step four, make sure you have capital to start the business. You can also use step three when doing your research to understand how much initial capital is needed to start this particular business. Step number five, set up your business well. There's so many people that start a business and don't do all the right setup activities, such as if it's opening up a business account, having a logo, a website, having the right indemnity, liability insurance, if it's opening up a Google Drive. There's so many people that just start off the business off the cuff, right? And what you find there is it's very difficult to scale. So it's better to go online, find a tutor or find someone to tell you how. There's so much resources on YouTube. You're listening to me on YouTube, but find how to set up a business correctly, right? So that's opening it on a company house, making sure you register it correctly. If that's finding an accountant to do that for you, that's fine. Then if it's setting up all the different insurances, compliance stuff that you need to do for the particular business you're in, also doing that. But I say do it early, do it before you're going after customers, set up the company and the business correctly. Step number 6, find your first customer. Now, this is going to be one of the hardest parts, right? You can have a great idea. It's not really a business until you have at least one customer. Whilst going through this process of finding a customer, the best thing for you to do is document this process. The reason why is because finding your first customer or getting your first customer is going to really be the hardest thing to do, your first customer. This is because you're having to sell the benefit of the product or service that you provide to a customer. And you're gonna have some teething problem where you're learning how to communicate, how to market, how to be a salesperson. With the business in which I started, it took us 6 to 7 months to get our first actual customer. Now, absolutely ridiculous, right? 6-7 months to get one customer. But that was fine. We documented that process. So after that first customer, we were able to then get 8 new customers in the space of approximately around a year. So you can imagine it took us 6-7 months just to get a first customer. After that, we were able to get 8 other customers after a year. And that's because we had documented the process. We knew how to interact with our customer base. We knew how to sell the benefit of our product, but that's all based on documenting that first customer. Leading on to my 7th point, scalability, scaling it. After you've documented that first customer, then you're able to scale it. So you're scaling it based on using that same process to generate and get that first customer, scaling it out to more of your target audience. If that's through advertising, if that's through marketing, if that's through word of mouth, you now need to get out there as much as possible to share your product, to share your business, to share the services in which you provide. And as I mentioned, we got a first customer after 6-7 months. We were then able to get 8 more customers after a space of approximately around a year. So scalability is key. And then my last tip and step is systemize your business. You want to try to remove yourself from your business when possible. So as soon as you've got your first customer, you've been able to scale, you then want to systemize your business if it's through leveraging tools, employees, where you can then take a step back and focus on more strategic stuff versus the day-to-day of running your business. So I'm just going to recap the 8 steps for starting a successful business. Step 1, just begin and get started. Step 2, find a business partner. Step 3, replicate. Go on Company House, find a business that you want to replicate the idea, but you can provide some sort of unique selling point or do it better and go out and do it. Step 4, find your initial capital. That can be from a business partner or saving. Step 5, set up your business well through bank accounts, your legal, your indemnity, setting up a website, logo, set up your business well. Step 6, find your first customer and document that process. This can potentially be a lengthy process, but that's fine. Do not give up. Step 7, scale. After you've documented the process for that first customer, scale up and get as many customers as possible. And the final step, step 8, systemize your business. Remove yourself from your business as much as possible from the day-to-day, if it's from leveraging tools, employees, so that you can focus on scaling and increasing your top line, your revenue. So if you stay to the end of the video, like I promised at the beginning, I'll share the business in which I have and how long it took us to generate 1 million. So the business that I have is a property management business where we do Airbnb lets and also rent to rent. We take the properties from landlords, we manage them out either through Airbnb or through an HMO, house of multiple occupancies, and then we make our profit based on after paying back the landlords. So that's the business, and it took us 3 years. 3 years to generate 1 million worth of revenue. So lots of hard work, lots of grafting, but it was absolutely worth it. And I would not have been able to do this. And I should give out my business partner, Nathan Rose, a shout out. Would not have been able to do this business without my business partner also going on this journey with me. If you have any questions about this takeaway episode, feel free to DM us on Take Flight Podcast, or you can follow me directly, OLU_OKUNOLA. If you haven't yet subscribed to us on Take Flight Podcast, please subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, give us a follow. I hope you've enjoyed this Take Flight Podcast episode. Take care and take flight.
Take off.